Welcome to the webinar. Welcome to the IAE Awards 2020 online program. We're so pleased, actually delighted to welcome you to the last in our series of webinars until our final IAE Awards ceremony itself tomorrow at 4 p.m. Today's event will be focused on, is your business looking forward? Social responsibility, impact, and the future of business. Throughout the webinar, you can ask questions by the Q&A tab, and then they'll be answered later in the event. Recordings of all events throughout the week will be shared by e-newsletter to all attendees on Friday. So this year marks the 10th anniversary of the IAE Awards, and we decided to launch a full program of free online events for you and your team to join. The aim is to engage organizations with different environmental initiatives to really inspire and motivate you and your teams with some of the really interesting best practice and ideas out there in sustainability. The program will culminate in the IAE Awards at 4 o'clock tomorrow, which is International Clean Air Day. That's Thursday, the 8th of October. This has been a really difficult year for many with the global pandemic, with the health and sustainability of our environment never being so critical. The climate crisis and the loss of biodiversity has been further exacerbated by the economic, health, and social challenges created by COVID-19. Pandemic has markedly changed business practices for the long term too. We believe that changing working practices to incorporate environmental decisions into the very heart of our organizations is really important to build resilience and create strong, sustainable businesses. By running our events online, we're hoping that this is a great example of good practice and how a successful virtual event can be run as well. If you'd like to attend any other event this week, which is really tomorrow's event, the IAE Awards, there's still time to register your place online on the IAE website. With this event, we're going to be hearing about why businesses should care about corporate social responsibility, or CSR, and social impacts. So how to get started with practical steps and discover what other organizations have achieved. Today, we're going to be hearing from Alice Troiano, the co-founder and chief executive of G.APP17, which is a digital platform that helps businesses and nonprofit organizations come together to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or outline those goals that are important to the business, and find a way to help them feed into those goals. By giving life to the SDGs, G.APP17 enables businesses to find the right charity partner and build impact stories together. As part of her consulting experience, Alice has previously supported organizations and businesses on partnerships and impact strategies, both in the UK and internationally. She's a purpose-driven entrepreneur who strives for a world where social impact and sustainability are no longer up for debate. We will also be announcing the winner of IAE's Special Award category, Biggest Social Impact, towards the end of the event. Thank you to BGL Group for supporting this category and for making this event possible today. With that, I will hand off to Alice.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So as was anticipated, the topic of today's talk is around a key question, which is your business looking forward? Now, I get it. If you're here, I gather you probably all are businesses that look forward, but I would like today to have a closer look at what it actually means to look forward, and why when we talk about social responsibility and impact, we're actually talking about the future of business. So let's have a look at some stats. We see that after COVID-19, the UK public now expect companies to have a legal responsibility towards both people and the planet. And meanwhile, 53% of the UK public seem to now favor purpose-driven brands. And this is a very important stat for businesses, because what we're seeing here is that over the majority of the UK public, of the UK consumers, now shops purpose-driven brands. So before we go into understanding how CSR is useful for your business, let's try to kind of define CSR. CSR obviously stands for corporate social responsibility. There are many different areas of social responsibility that a business can engage with. Overall, I like to define CSR as showing that a business cares. And what does it mean to care? It means to care for the environment. It means to care for people and communities, to care about the diversity and inclusion of your staff, and it means to care about the well-being of your employees. And these are just some of the aspects that CSR can cover. What we'll focus on today is how businesses can care and can show their support for people and communities. Something very interesting happened during the first wave of COVID-19. We see that according to Forbes, responsible businesses are much better equipped to deal with the COVID-related downturn. And why? Because in general, even during the last financial crisis, purpose-driven businesses were 60% more likely to survive and actually come out stronger of the crisis compared to business of similar sizes. And how is that possible? Why is it that businesses that have a purpose beyond just making profit, which is still very important, why is it that this kind of businesses seem to perform better in a situation of crisis? There must be something related to the way they engage with their consumers and the way they engage with their employees. So having a look at the benefits that CSR brings to your business and why your business should actually start to think about CSR and boost your CSR strategy if you have already started. First of all, CSR brings you customer. Very clearly, see, if you are very active and have a clear and strong CSR agenda, you will most simply get more customers. Which kind of customers though? We see that 70% of millennials claim to spend more with brands that support causes with an impact. And at the same time, 81% of millennials now expect companies to make a public commitment to do good. In other words, that's why we say looking forward business, because the millennial generation will start to look at brands that have associated with a cause when deciding where to shop. And that brings me to my second point, which is CSR also gives you a competitive advantage. Now, in the traditional business sense, we know that when people and consumers have to choose between your company or your competitor, they will usually look at the quality of your product, the quality of your service, the way you're going to deliver your product, the team that is behind the product, and how you can support them, and obviously the cost. Well, now for millennials, it's not just that. These items all remain really, really important, but what becomes crucial is your social responsibility agenda, is how you are contributing to making the world a better place. Just think about the fact that 9 out of 10 millennials would switch brands to one associated with a cause. That means that as a millennial, if I have to choose between your company and the company of your competitor, if you don't clearly tell me how you're supporting communities, if you don't have a clear plan for CSR and social responsibility and social impact, and your competitor does, I would immediately go to your competitor. 9 out of 10 millennials will do the same. And finally, we've seen how CSR brings benefit from the outside, which means sales, financial performance, more customers, reputation, obviously, and the loyalty of these customers. But let's also have a look at what happens inside the company, because CSR and social responsibility shouldn't just be thought as something happening outside of the company, but it's also really important what happens with your employees, because social responsibility makes your employees happier. And what does that mean? When you make your employees part of your CSR strategy, when you show them that your company cares about people, the planet, the environment, your supply chain, how green it is, etc., when you clearly involve them in this process, CSR will reduce staff turnover by at least 50%. People will not leave. They will not leave your company. They will continue to work with you because they feel part of a bigger picture, of a bigger project and a vision that you are contributing in achieving. And also CSR will increase the team productivity by at least 13%. Your people will be happier, and therefore, obviously, they will also work better. And it's not just the benefits that it brings to your current employees, but also what happens to new employees, to potential employees, and therefore the talent that is out there and looking for a job. 82% of young millennials are likely to consider CSR when deciding where to work. Just like the previous slide says, if I am a millennial and I have to choose between your company and another company, which is your competitor, when I decide where to shop, I would do the same if I have to choose my next job. So when choosing the next job, people will not just look at HR policies, how well is the company performing, and everything that they currently look at, but they are also looking at how well you are performing on social impact. And if you are not, they will go to your competitor. If you are, you will get the best talent. So what can you do as a company to boost your social impact? Very simply, you need to engage with communities. You need to make a difference for the people around you, for the communities you are part of. And it's not just making a difference for people. We've just seen it. It is also making a difference for your business. There are tangible benefits to engaging in a social impact and social responsibility strategy. But how do you do this? You don't have to do it alone. It's not something that you have to, as a business, go around in the community and ask every single person, a member of that community, okay, how are you? How do you feel? I mean, that would be really nice and really needed, but obviously it's very time consuming. So how can a business clearly and simply achieve a community need and meet a community need? There is a middle guy, let's say, someone in the middle that can help you do that. And these are not-for-profit organizations, social enterprises, charities, all those organizations that are tirelessly working out there to gather what the needs of the community are, to gather information and data and supporting these communities through their services. So what you can do is that you can become part of this picture. You can become part of this impact picture by partnering up with them and enabling them through you as a company to make a massive impact. And the choice is quite large. Only charities, we've got over 160,000 charities in the UK to choose from when you want to decide your next charity, choose your next charity partner. And how can you partner up with these charities? There are obviously multiple ways you can do this. You can do company donations, which means, for instance, every year you decide a set amount that as a company you would like to contribute to your charity of the year, or to a charities, or to a couple of charities that you've picked for that year. And it's also becoming increasingly common among businesses to actually make pledges to give to charity, a fixed amount, a fixed percentage of their of your revenues or profit. You can also do staff volunteering, which is very, very important, because again, remember that we said CSR is not just happening outside. Most importantly, it's happening inside the company. So you want to make sure that you engage your staff, you engage your employees to take part in volunteering activities with the charities that together you have chosen for that year. You can also contribute to charity work, to fundraising, and this can be staff fundraising, but it can also be customer fundraising. So again, see how the inside outside idea of CSR keeps overlapping. For instance, obviously when you do it inside, it's your employees fundraising for a cause, but you can also leverage your network and presence in the different communities that you operate in to do customer fundraising. I was just at Tesco a couple of days ago, and what they do right now is when you go to the till will ask you if you want to round your bill to the nearest pound, and that amount will be given to charity. Now imagine how many people shop at Tesco every day, and imagine the massive impact that they're able to make when they collect all these different donations from their customers. It's just massive, the amount of difference that they're able to make for a charity. Through their customers. And finally, you can also engage with them through pro bono work, which means ask yourself, what are you good at? What can you do? What do you usually do for a living? What does your business do? And how can you leverage that service, leverage your talent to offer something valuable to a charity? Can you support them on their marketing? Can you make sure that their visibility is enhanced so they can continue to make a massive difference for the community? Try to see what are the needs of the charities as well, and how your talents can fit into that to support them. So we would like now to ask you a question. I would like to ask you a question, whether you've already partnered up with a charity in the past. If you've never done it, try to think about what has stopped you from doing it. If you're skilled at charity partnerships, share your experience. We're going to launch a poll now, and you're going to see the question, what are some of the challenges you have faced when partnering with a charity? Usually, the two most common ones are finding the right charity partner and measuring impact. And these are the two options that, if we launch the poll, we should be able to see, and we would like for you to take part in it and share what has been among these two the most challenging part of building a charity partnership. I'm going to take the next minute to answer that. Okay, I think we can close the poll now, please. And see, everyone should be able to, okay, perfect. Everyone should be able to see the results now. So when asked, what are the challenges that you have faced when partnering with a charity? We see it's pretty equal. We've got a 42 to 58, 42% of the audience find it difficult to find the right charity partner, and the rest, 58%, measuring impact as the biggest challenge. And in fact, I can relate very much to that. The single most difficult thing, it is indeed to measure impact. And we're going to see practical steps that we can take as a business to address both of these issues. So how do we get there? What are the steps that we can take as a business to make sure that our charity partnerships are successful? And when I say successful, I don't mean just successful for the initiative that we're going to take, for the charity that we're going to partner with, but also successful for us as a business, also successful so that all these stats and the benefits that we've seen before actually apply to us. So there are 5 practical steps that you can take in order to make sure that your social impact strategy is as strong as possible. And these are assess, strategize, collaborate, measure, and innovate. And we're going to see them one by one. So the first one is assess. What do I mean by that? Whether you've already done some CSR, or if you've never done it, or if you're experienced at that, I would like for you to sit down for a moment and start to think about what are the steps that you've been taking towards CSR. What are some of the activities that you've done, some of the initiatives that you've taken part of in terms of social impact and community engagement? Ask yourself, how have I supported my community as a business? And bear in mind that SMEs here have a competitive advantage. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean that larger companies are not able to do this. They're actually very strong on CSR most of the time. But SMEs usually tend to think that because they're so small, they can't do CSR. And that's actually the opposite, because as a small or medium enterprise, you're actually much closer to your communities, because you only operate usually in one community. Compared to larger companies that instead have different communities and different branches that operate within which they operate. So as an SME, you should also take part in this exercise and ask yourself, how am I being part of my community? What good actions, what positive impact am I making for my community? Most of the time, you will realize that you've been doing something, you just weren't calling it CSR. And the task that I invite you to take now, the challenge, is to rather start calling it that way. Start using a shared language and start to put everything together under the same umbrella, so that together we can build a strategy around your social responsibility actions. Once you've done that, you should be able to identify the strengths and the weaknesses of your CSR operations, and therefore leverage on the gaps and opportunities based on what you've done in the past. So once we've seen what's been done up until now, we should start to think about the future. So where do we want to go? Where am I going as a company? How do I fit in? What is my goal? And you should not think about CSR. When you strategize, which is the second step, you should never think about CSR as something being completely detached from your business strategy. In fact, most of the businesses review their CSR strategy when they review their core business strategy, which is usually every 3 or 5 years, depending on how you structure your business and your business plan. So when thinking about your main business goals, your vision, where you're going as a business, that's where you also want to think about CSR. Never think about CSR as something completely separate from your business, because otherwise you run the risk of making your CSR, again, very ad hoc and not relevant to your business. What we want to do on this step, when we strategize, we want to make sure that we create synergies, strong synergies between your core business path and your CSR vision. And when you do this step, think about what matters to you as a company and make sure that you don't do it alone. If you are the owner of a company, if you are the CEO of a company, if you are the CSR manager of a company even, make sure that you always involve other people. This can be your employees, partners, the supply chain, customers, shareholders. Talk to people and to all those different bodies that together create what your company is, because you alone would not represent your company and the vision of your company. It is to get it is the union and the group of these people that together represent what your company is, and will be able therefore to advise you and come up together with a strategy for CSR. And the most important thing here is that when you try to assess where to strategize around where you're going, you do this through a common language. You don't want to be that guy who is talking about CSR, but in a way that is completely different from everyone else. There is nothing wrong with that. The problem is that it goes against yourself, because if no one understands what you're doing, if no one understands that, okay, so this is my business and I'm doing CSR, and people actually can see that this is CSR, then those benefits that we've seen before in these slides will not apply to you. Because obviously people, if I'm a millennial and I want to see how you're planning your CSR and I don't understand what you're saying, I wouldn't choose your company, because for me, you're not doing anything on that level. And one very easy and common framework to adopt is those 17 goals that you see here. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. These are the UN Sustainable Development Goals, also known as Global Goals or 2030 Agenda. It is an international agenda which has been created having governments, businesses, civil society, not-for-profits in mind, so that together they could join forces and make the world a better place. So when you strategize, have a look at these goals, see what goals apply to what you've been doing and to where you want to go, and pick the ones that are really relevant to you. The third step is collaboration, and is one of the most important steps. Why? Because once you have identified the SDGs that matter to you as a business, you can now use those goals to check where are the synergies with non-profits organizations. Again, if you remember, we've seen and said that you don't have to go out in the community yourself and do all the work yourself. That will be very time consuming. So make sure that you leverage partners and you leverage charity partnerships for that. And how do you choose the right charity partner? The SDGs have been created exactly with that in mind. Charities and companies can now choose each other based on the SDGs, because if I'm a business and I've chosen, let's go back to that slide, I've chosen goal 4 as my core goal, which is education. I want to work for a world where education is the key. I know that I will be looking for charities that are going towards the same goal, that are helping disadvantaged kids or children getting back into education, dropouts getting back into school, etc. I know where I can find the right partner, because we are going towards a common shared goal. Once you've done that, together with your charity partner, you identify a target that you want to achieve together. I would like to stress this. We should start to think about business charity partnerships as partnership. We're trying to move beyond the idea that the business is just the donor giving some donations, some volunteering hours, and the charity is just the receiver. Let's try to move away from that philanthropic old school mindset and start to think about charities as your partners. As much as when I talk to the charities, I try to say to them, start to think about businesses as your partners. It should be a win-win thinking, where when you when you start a partnership as a business, you clearly tell yourself, okay, what do I want to get out of this partnership? And you are clear with that partner, and you tell them. And at the same time, you're open to say, okay, this is what I want from this partnership, and this is how I would like to collaborate. If you establish this collaboration to what I would like to bring into the partnership to make sure that the collaboration works. If you establish this line of clarity and transparency in your communication, and you've based these partnerships on shared goals, that partnership will be successful. The fourth step is measuring, and it goes back to the challenge that we've seen before. It is one of the most difficult things. I'm not going to lie to you. It is very difficult, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible. Why is it important to measure the impact of charity initiatives? Because these benefits that we've seen only apply to you when you measure the outcomes of these charity partnerships and the projects and the initiatives that you've been doing with communities. If you don't know the outcome of your actions, how can we say what we've actually doing, we've actually been doing? If I can't tell you this is the number of people that we've helped, or this is how their situation has changed from before we stepped in to help them to after we've helped them, how can I actually then communicate to the public that I'm making an impact for communities? It is really important for those benefits and those stats to apply to you, that you measure your charity partnerships. And we can do so on two levels. One is the micro level, and the other one is the macro level. So at the micro level, we can measure impact and aiming for both qualitative and quantitative data. So qualitative data means being able to gather stories from the field, stories from the communities. Ask your charity partners to share stories and case studies with you, and stories that people can relate to, because when you will go and present these stories to your consumers, to your customers, to your stakeholders, this is what it's gonna make them click and say, wow, this company is amazing. I really wanna shop with them. I really wanna work for them, etc. But you also wanna quantify that impact. You also want to be able to say, this is the amount of people that we have supported. This is the percentage of disadvantaged women that have been able to start a business thanks to our support, etc. And at the macro level, we go back once again to this grid, because the SDGs are the key way through which you can make sure that your impact is not just local, which means it's bounded to the community you are supporting, but it becomes suddenly global. And what does that mean? All the goals have been agreed by charities, businesses, governments internationally, which means that while you are working on goal 4, let's pick that one again. While you're working on goal 4, there are other millions of businesses who are working with other millions of charities towards achieving that same goal. Now, if you think about all those millions of initiatives towards achieving goal 4 being combined with each other, imagine the impact that you're making together to achieve that goal. That means that by 2030, when we will be able to hopefully achieve that goal, you would have been a part of that, even if your impact was just micro, because that's what we're doing. We're still doing the micro impact, but if we can relate those micro level to the macro one, i.e. talking through the SDG language, in 2030, we can say, I have been part of that journey. I have been part of an agenda that has managed to make the world a better place. And that's something that comes out really, really powerful for the people that work, shop, and talk to you every day as a business. And finally, the most important thing is that you always remember to share and communicate your impact, because what's the point otherwise? Obviously, it's very important to make that impact and to generate that impact, but you want to make sure that you record those and gather those data, because then you can clearly communicate them to the people that you talk to your customers, to your stakeholders, so that they know, okay, this business is actually helping shaping a better world, and is making actions and is taking practical actions to achieve that goal. And finally, the last but not least point in the practical steps is innovation. It's really important to innovate. I might be a bit biased here, obviously, because that's what I work towards, but you don't have to do everything yourself. You don't have to go through all the steps that we've just described by yourselves. There are tools that can help you do that and can help you innovate on your CSR, so that basically your life can become easier. Otherwise, it would be very, very complex and time consuming to measure impact, find the right partner, collaborate, all the steps that we've seen. So for instance, what we're doing at G.APP17 is providing businesses with a platform where they can easily find the right partner. All organizations are vetted, so you can be sure that these organizations are actually, implementing good quality causes. They are actually being part of their community and are worthy of your support. And you will find an SDG matching where you will be able to easily link your strategy to the SDGs and also measure the impact of your initiative. So innovation, whether it's through G.APP17 or any other tool that you'll find or any other way that you can come up with, make sure that you innovate, because otherwise CSR can drag you down because it's complex. So you want to make sure that you innovate on this level. Thank you. I think we can open it up to the audience for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's really, really interesting. And I'm aware that we've got a lot of questions as well. We've got a lot of members and people on the call that are doing some of these things. I am aware that there are some larger organizations that have CSR teams, more than at least one person, but we also have some small businesses that don't have anybody that's dedicated to a role like this. Is CSR something that even with the help of an app like yours, how much time do you think like a small business, for example, would need to dedicate to this?
So I don't think it's really a matter of time, but it's how much time, but rather how you're spending that time. The way you invest in time is really crucial, because if you do it in a non-strategic way, it can take a lot of time, and the outcome is not even the one that you expect. Because if you just start to, okay, tomorrow I decide that I want to partner with a charity, how long is it going to take you to find a charity? If you don't have a plan before going out and finding the right charity, it can take a long time. Just imagine reviewing 100 of charities' website. We said there are over 160,000 charities in the UK. How are we going to get through all that? Instead, if the time commitment is invested in a qualitative way, which means if you have a strategy behind it, then the time that you need, and if you can also obviously use apps to support you or tools to support you, but the strategy is really key. If you've got that strategy, then the time is not really the problem, because it comes out naturally. If you can set that process in place where charity partnerships requests come to you automatically, impact indicators are able to tell you the impact of your charity partnerships automatically, you just have to take those data and share it with your customers, then it becomes really, really easy, and the time commitment is not much, not even for a medium-sized enterprise.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the same sort of process that we have with our business in terms of reducing their environmental impact. The focus is on having a strategy in place, and then you focus on those areas where you can have the biggest impact and engagement. So with regard to strategy, so this is a little bit of a two-part question. First of all, how do you identify the SDGs that would be important to you? Who do you need to get involved in, and what does that look like in practice? And then, I know that some of our members, they vote on charity partners, for example, as one of the examples that you mentioned, and staff, there are a few, maybe 3 charities that are put up, and then staff vote for that. But how can they set a strategy, but also, enable their staff to have the right impact or input on that and have their say?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's actually one of the most difficult things that we come across when working with businesses, is really that balance between what matters to us as a company, so at a strategy level, and what matters to our employees, which are still individual. Even if they work for that company, they have life stories that have affected what matters to them and the charities that they are going to select. And really the key and the most successful CSR strategies that I've seen is where a company is able to, and especially the role of the CSR manager, if they have one, in finding that perfect balance in the process of choosing a charity and working with a charity, is finding that balance between a high level strategy and more participatory kind of strategy with all your employees. So to answer the first question on how do you pick the SDGs, it goes back to what we were saying about where am I going as a company. I don't want to kind of suggest that you should take the SDGs and then choose where you're going, but it's rather the opposite. You should, in fact, if you remember from that slide, the mental process was, first of all, stop to think 1 second about what matters to you as a company. And then you can ask yourself, okay, based on what matters to me as a company, based on where I'm going as a company, what are the tiles of the SDGs that my work fits in, rather than the opposite, because the opposite would be very, very complicated. And we can say most of us are probably working towards all of them in some sense. But when picking these goals, again, make sure that you speak with as many people as possible within the organization, not just within the CSR team if you have one, but try to go above and beyond in this process, because if you pick the right goals and if you're able to speak with as many people as possible, that will also ensure that when you then set up a volunteering scheme for your employees, they will feel that actually I've contributed in shaping this strategy. My voice was heard when I did this, and therefore I would like to actually volunteer for this charity. Because one of the issues, unfortunately, that we see when a company sets their high-level priorities, come up with 5 SDGs, and now they want to work towards these goals, and then actually they propose a charity, and none of the staff is going to volunteer. None of the staff is taking their 1 or 2 days to volunteer for that charity, and staff engagement becomes really low, and that's a loss. It's a fail in a sense, but it's still a way to, if it happens, it's good, because it's a way of saying, okay, next time we need to speak to our employees more. And that's really the only way where you can find that balance between high level SDG strategy and what matters to my employees and the people that are working with us.
Fantastic. It's really, really interesting. And I'm aware, the sponsor for this afternoon's activity, they have quite a robust CSR program. And yeah, it's really interesting to know how you can add focus to enhance the impact that you have as an organization, and then be able to feed back what impact that has had based on the strategy that you have set. I think that's quite impactful. Right. Yeah. So question just around some of the basics, just to ensure that everybody's familiar with the terminology. So first one being, you talked quite a lot about millennials. So could you sort of define that age group? And also, can you talk about, should people be looking at, the market outside of millennials? So, and does business have a responsibility or an obligation to maybe engage or help society as well care about the same kinds of values that their organization does?
Yeah, I think millennials are defined as people in the age group between 25 for sure to 35. I don't want to be mistaken on the end, but I should be 25.
I think it's about 39.
Yeah, 39. So something in their 30s, which are very different from each other. I think there are 2 subgroups to the millennials. In fact, in one of the slides, I told specifically about young millennials, which are in the not even in their 30s, but the reason why we want to make sure as a business is that we engage with millennials is because first of all, they are the largest population, they are the largest group in population, which means that all the new talent that's coming in, all the new future employees that we will have, the new customers that we will have, or the customers that we currently have are probably very likely to be millennials. There is a high percentage that they will be millennial. And in regards to the second question, of course, businesses should care, because first of all, from my opinion, in general, businesses should care anyway, because they are a part of this community. They are a part of the world that we see in this beautiful image. They are a part of our planet. And so the question would be, why shouldn't you care? But if you want to make the business case for this, is if people that shop at your business, the people that buy services from you, if you're a professional services B2B, if people that interact with your company, if people that partner with you care about these things, they care about social impact, they care about causes, why shouldn't you as a business care as well? Obviously, if you start not to, if you don't care, slowly these people will move towards someone else, because I can assure you out there, and I am 100% sure that you guys are a big part of this new generation of businesses that think forward. there are businesses who are going towards that direction. So if the others not follow, it's just their problem. They're just saying in their little profit only based word, and without looking at all the rest, they're just going to lose customers, going to lose employees, etc. So if everyone else cares, why shouldn't business not care?
Just to sort of build on that, so does a business have a role to engaging their customer base or their stakeholders and getting them to care about what they're doing and what their business values are? And, how should they go about that? Often we see cases of, businesses that have a particular practice that's not helpful to the environment or society, but they say this is what people want, so we're just giving people what they want. Is there a role for businesses to maybe influence their customers to doing the right thing?
Absolutely. And I love this question because we often, and I was the first to do this, we often say, if customers are caring about this, why shouldn't you? But actually, again, it goes back to the idea of collaboration. And it's just not just collaborating with charities. This is also an exchange with your own customers. So if you notice that you are actually on the good path to showing to the world and to your customers, okay, this is a more sustainable practice, this is a greener practice that you can also participate in, etc. That would be very, very powerful, because that network effect would just become so massive. If a business is shaping the narrative for their customers in a positive way, in a positive impact direction, then the next business will start to do it, and the next business will start to do it. And all the consumers on the other end will start to see other consumers as well following businesses that are taking this direction, and therefore the network effect is just amazing. And an example of how a business can kind of raise awareness about these things with their consumer, with their customers, or with the general public anyway, was I think it was before, I'm pretty sure it was before the lockdown. I was at Marylebone Station. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but BNP Paribas, who has their HQ right in front of the station, they had basically covered the floor of the train station with the SDGs icons. So they had on the floor, you would walk on the SDGs icons, and underneath each they would write how they were supporting this icon and why people this goal and why people should care. So it wasn't about just them telling to the public this is what we're doing, but it was also a way of raising awareness about the global goals to people that had never heard about them probably, and saying this is how you can also participate in this global action that we're taking to shape a better world, basically.
That's really interesting. It's a great example. And I think the awareness around the Sustainable Development Goals is starting to increase. And in particular, I think there's been a lag in people understanding how they can contribute to such incredibly ambitious global goals, really. Now, a few questions in the chat box around, the impact that COVID-19 has had on businesses economically, but also, what's going to happen to, businesses' role in terms of making a social impact in these pandemic times. That level of uncertainty, and also the financial concerns as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question, because when the lockdown and COVID hit the UK, the first thing everyone thought was, or what that I thought, and I know that other people in the industry thought it as well, was, okay, the first budget that is gonna be cut is the CSR budget. No one is gonna, all the steps that we've taken towards sustainability are just void now. Nothing, it's like nothing had ever happened. And actually, the powerful thing that happened is that people during COVID really started to care. And it goes back to the notion of caring. People started to care about their neighbors, started to care about global communities, how, someone was suffering for COVID on the other side of the world. It was exactly the same to our next door friend. And suddenly businesses realized that everything that they've been doing on social impact, it was just becoming more and more important, because people wanted to see how businesses were not stopping the CSR, but actually making it stronger, which doesn't necessarily mean giving more money to charity. We all know that there are financial issues which have been brought about by COVID and the economic downturn that could come out of it, etc. But there are ways you can still show to communities, and you can still take part in this global change without necessarily having to enhance your financial support for a charity. It can be via volunteering. During COVID, I'm pretty sure everyone has seen it. There's been a massive increase in remote volunteering, especially, you know, people that were on furlough, for instance, they started to take part in remote volunteering initiatives, supporting charities with their expertise, you know, caring for what they were doing, because on the other side, they were also aware that the charities were going through, you know, a very rough path as everyone else was. And so these people, these staff members that were on furlough, but even if they were still working, starting to take the initiative on remote volunteering, so that the, you know, also the company could show to the world that they were still in fact being part of the community. And the reason why I've inserted those stats at the beginning of the presentation, those were taken from a B-Lab UK study in the UK, which was done after the lockdown. And basically what they did is going out to the public and asking, okay, what do you expect businesses to do now? And if you think of it, the answer from 53% of them was, I still want them. I actually want them more than before to be purpose driven, because people now realize how important it is to care, and they want to be associated as customers to businesses that care. Otherwise, they would just not work with them or engage with them anymore. So CSR is really important for the COVID or post, not so post COVID world, because what matters is caring. We started to suddenly care more about each other, and CSR is just, you know, a leverage that we can use to continue to care even more.
Absolutely. I'd say, yeah, COVID has certainly, I think, revealed more of the humanity in all of us, you know, from professional relationships with colleagues, as well as people in other organizations. I think we've all really seen that it's, you know, we're all human beings, and we're all, you know, we share similar values in common.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one last question before we move on. So just to get people maybe a little bit of inspiration or some ideas, could you explain a little bit more about what might be classed as CSR activities, like corporate social responsibility? So you mentioned a few in the talk about donations or a fixed percentage of your profits, some volunteering or lending a hand days in the community, but also, you know, donating your skills. Is there anything else that you could add to that?
I would say, I would give you an example to add something else, because I think those are suggestions, but my advice would be, try to understand what is the best way for you to engage with charities. You know, I know businesses that, for instance, have their charity partners as actual part of their businesses. So I've met with a B Corp a few months ago, and what they do is they partner with the charity. They don't give any financial support to them, nor do they volunteer with them. What they actually do is the beneficiaries of these charities are people who have been in jail, or have an history of homelessness. So people in general who are struggling and have or are in a disadvantaged situation. What they do is they take these people on board within their company. They train them up through apprenticeship. They teach them skills, transferable skills that they can then apply to their next job, so that these people will be able to then find a new job as they move on. So there are different ways in which you can engage with a charity. Another one was actually happening through our platform a few days ago. One company was going through their net carbon emission, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, especially investors in the environment. And what they needed was a carbon offsetting exercise, because they were measuring up how much carbon they were emitting in the environment, and needed to find a way to balance that out. And what they found on the platform was actually a tree planting project. So there are multiple ways where you can also actually mix your social impact with your environmental impact. So what they will do is engage with this charity, plant those trees and work with them so that they can also offset their carbon emission on the other hand. So you can go as creative as possible. These are just a few examples, but whatever works for you and whatever you're good at also, it's very important, and what you like doing as well, that's what you should follow in terms of how you want to engage with the charity. There is no prescribed path to that. Those are suggestions, really.
Thank you. That's incredibly insightful and motivating as well. I think, yeah, there's a number of our businesses that are doing these incredible things. It just really emphasizes the need to, communicate these stories and get these case studies out there so that people can see what it looks like in practice.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Alice.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you to everybody who submitted a question. If I wasn't able to get to your question to give it an answer today, due to the limited time, please get in touch through info@iie.uk.com, and we'll try to message you as well if your name was attached to any of the questions too. So that brings me to announce today's winner for the biggest social impact of 2020. This year, as you know, we're marking a decade of the IIE Awards. So in addition to our bronze, silver, and green accreditation, we're also awarding IIE member organizations for going above and beyond. So the results have been announced throughout the week. This is our 6th webinar of the week. And tomorrow at the IIE Awards, we're going to be doing sort of a recap of all the winners as well as 2 additional awards tomorrow. So today we're ready to celebrate the winner of our biggest social impact category 2020. And to judge this category, we looked at projects that were undertaken, the scale of the impact. So for example, one-off projects or long-term engagement or activity, and feedback as well from beneficiaries. This award will recognize a business for how they've contributed to their local community through volunteering, financial support, contribution to human well-being, all of those things that we've talked about during Alice's talk today. And the winner, I'm delighted to say, is Cross Keys Homes. Judges loved that profits from operations were put back into the communities that they serve, from care home community gardens to community cafe and fridges that rescued food waste and converted it into social enterprise. Commendation was also given to Manchester University NHS Trust, who gets honorable mention for their adoption of Green Rewards program. Typical actions included connecting people to healthy eating through growing fruits and vegetables, volunteering, and sharing healthy recipes. So amazing best practice, and we're going to be working hard at getting these stories out for the winners. As I said, the need to demonstrate these case studies out so that people can learn and hopefully replicate them in their own businesses. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Again, congratulations to our category winner, Cross Keys Homes. Thank you to Alice from G.APP17 for giving such an engaging and inspiring talk on how to demonstrate and focus on creating social impact within your business. Thank you very much to our category sponsor, BGL Group, who are also doing amazing things with their corporate social responsibility program. Thank you also to our other IIE Award sponsors for 2020, Ecotricity, Cross Keys Homes, Davies Veterinary Specialists, Cool Food, Roythorn Solicitors, Hunt & Coombs Solicitors, and Green Energy Switch. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you tomorrow for the IIE Awards.